Everything you need to survive already exists on this planet. Yet millions still struggle for basic access to it. What if the problem was never a lack of resources, but how they're distributed? What if the money system was never designed to serve everyone equally? Money is often seen as value, but in reality, it's a system of access. Most money is created when banks issue loans, which means it begins as debt. And the system only keeps moving if more debt is created.
Material to build with, we had the factories, so we went into debt. See? Debt is nothing, that's what you owe to the banks. The federal government is not allowed to print money. It's not allowed to lend money or get in the banking business. That is a privilege for bankers only. So what the government has to do if they want to build an air force, say, of 2,000 planes a month, they have to borrow money from a private lending institution, sign the dotted line, and if the war is lost or failed, the burden falls on the public to pay off that debt.
And if a system depends on debt to function, what kind of system is it, really? And when a system runs like that, everything inside it has to adjust to keep it going.
And that doesn't really address the fundamental problem, does it? Basically, we have our money produced out of debt. Money's made out of debt, whether it comes from the central banks or it comes from the private banks. The private banks manipulate money, loan it at interest to people, and there's the interest component, which doesn't exist in the money supply. So you have an infinite amount of debt increasing constantly throughout the entire world. And that is why we are in the staggering state that we're in, suffocating us on so many different levels. Just look at medical debts, look at student loan debts, look at all of the deprivation that's being caused of that. That's one side of it, which is, to my view, a completely sick social experiment. It's a horrible thing to do to human society, to even impose this fictional element on them.
In a system where money enters as debt, access to life is never truly equal. Because if money must be borrowed into existence, then not everyone can have enough at the same time. Someone is always owing, always catching up. This creates built-in scarcity, even in a world capable of abundance. Resources may exist, technology may be able to provide, but access remains limited by financial position.
It means that there's nothing eternal or spontaneous to it. It means that it is built on political forces that can, by definition, be changeable, especially if people open up their eyes to the fact that this system is never meant to have people, to have the majority win. The system is constructed, so the story we know is that, like, if we don't do well, it's probably our fault. We haven't tried hard enough, we are somehow irrational, because this is what the economic models tell you, that actually the redistribution of income mirrors our talents and our capacities to choose the right options. This is a complete myth. Our economic system is based on the relation of exploitation. And this relation of exploitation means that by definition we produce more value than what we get in our paycheck, and this is the source of it all. And also it means that this relation of exploitation is something that needs certain historical conditions to work. And the historical conditions are that people need to be made more market dependent. This is what austerity does. Austerity policies about cutting social expenditures and imposing more taxes on workers rather than on capital gains, and increasing the rate of unemployment through interest rates that we can discuss, through interest rates hikes. This is all meant to preserve those historical conditions that maintain capitalism in place.
This is where it becomes deeper. When survival is tied to money, people compete for it. When access becomes unequal, greed becomes a strategy. And when pressure stays constant, crime, corruption, and survival-driven choices begin to emerge. Not because people are broken, but because the conditions shape the behavior. At the same time, technology is advancing faster than ever. We can now produce more with less human effort than ever before. Factories are increasingly automated. Software systems coordinate supply chains. Machines produce, package, and move goods across the world with minimal human input. In some industries, systems now do the work that once required hundreds of people. Yet access to what's produced is still structured through money.
Of technology that we've been sold throughout history has been that it's going to make life better for us, right?
Yeah.
That we're going to work less and enjoy more leisure time. But it's never really worked out.
It hasn't, because we're at a coordination failure. We have enough food in the world to feed everyone, but it's not allocated properly. We have finally the ability to give every child in the world the best tutor, to have individualized medicine for everyone. So I call this the Star Wars future versus the Star Trek future.
Unfortunately, my expectations are that on the path to get to an environment where there is total abundance, which is something we can do with artificial intelligence, unfortunately, humanity is going to use this superpower in ways that sort of provide for some of us at the expense of others. And I think as the path takes us from the current capitalist sort of scarcity-based mindset of humanity, where for me to succeed I need to be the leader in an industry, I need to play against others, and so on and so forth. As we move from there to a mindset of total abundance, where there is everything available for everyone, because intelligence solves the most difficult problems facing humanity, that transition unfortunately is going to have that abundance dealt with a mindset of scarcity. And in that mindset of scarcity, I think some humans will struggle. It is in my mind clear that we'll first have a tiny bit of a dip, if you want, where some will lose their jobs before we even have thought deeply enough about what other jobs are we going to give them. Are we going to upskill them? Is there going to be the concept of a job in the first place? Some may actually become accumulate massive amounts of wealth and power, while others are losing it. And that dichotomy, if you want, is going to be a challenge before we end up in what I normally refer to as the fourth inevitable, in a world where everything is available, everything is cheap, and everything is perhaps as it has always been, like nature always provided for humanity before we.
Some began to question not just how to improve the system, but whether we still need it at all. This is where the Venus Project comes in, developed by Jacques Fresco and Roxanne Meadows. It's not just an idea, it's a complete redesign of how society could function. Instead of organizing life around money, it proposes organizing society around resources and what we're actually capable of producing. One where technology manages resources directly, tracking availability, optimizing distribution, and making sure people have access to what they need. In this kind of system, access is not decided by income, but what exists. No currency, no buying and selling just to survive, just intelligent systems applied to meet human needs as efficiently as possible. And when survival is no longer tied to money, the pressure that shapes behavior begins to change.
So we are living in a time when science and technology are racing forward, but our social systems are static. We do see people protesting in the streets against the divide between the wealthy and the poor, racism, war, and sometimes they're able to overthrow the regimes that they're living under, but only to put in another incompetent political government that work within the monetary system, that cannot ultimately take care of the problems. The use of money is hardly ever examined, but let's consider it along with how much it shapes and influences our behavior and our values. Money itself doesn't have any value at all. It has no gold or anything to back it up. It's just a picture on a cheap piece of paper with an agreement amongst people as to what it can buy. And I would say a forced agreement, because we don't really determine the prices of things. If it rained $100 bills right now, everybody would be happy except the bankers. So let's look at money. Money is just an interference factor between what you want and what you're able to get. People think in terms of wanting a job to get the money to fulfill their needs. But if they really thought about it, it's not the money that we need or the job that they really want, but it's access to the necessities of life. What if all the money in the world suddenly disappeared? As long as we had arable land, factories, technical personnel, and other resources existed, we could build anything we wanted to build and fulfill most of our needs. The Venus Project advocates that with today's ingenuity, we could easily overcome scarcity, which is the cause of most of our problems, such as war, corruption, and aberrant behavior. We could accomplish this through the implementation of a resource-based economy. This is a very different concept than anything that's gone in the past. It has nothing to do with communism, socialism, capitalism, or fascism. To put it simply, a resource-based economy uses resources rather than money, and all people have free access to their needs without money, credit, barter, taxation, or any other kind of debt or servitude. In other words, all the world's resources are held as the common heritage of all the Earth's people.
Yes, I can only tell you that we are capable today of producing such an abundance. Don't take my word for it. Go to Sears, any department, you'll see lots of stuff. What the hell are you selling things for? If he gets a dental infection, a dentist makes $1,500. If somebody dents your car, he makes money straightening it out. We're all predatory in this system. In the other system, we're all for humanity and the protection of the environment by all nations. It cannot be done in America alone. If you do it in America or England alone, and the Russians and Chinese do nuclear experiments, they contaminate the ocean. We must invite all nations in so that there's no powerful group that controls anything. So all the nations sit around.
So, if access to the basics of life is not truly limited by resources, and we already have the technology to produce abundance, then it raises a different kind of question. Are the limits we experience really natural, or are they coming from the way the system is structured? And if it's the structure, then it means something important. It means things could be structured differently. And if they were, what possibilities could we unlock if the systems we lived in were designed for what's now possible?